Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Cybersecurity Ranger. Before I begin the video, I'd like to request you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is the first phases in penetration testing. There are two types of reconnaissance, active reconnaissance and passive reconnaissance. In active reconnaissance, we interact with the target directly and try to gather information. In passive reconnaissance, we do not directly try to interact with the target. Instead, we try to get the information which is publicly available by using various resources, tools, and techniques. Now, the idea of reconnaissance is that if we are trying to launch an attack on the target, we need to gather as much information as we can to prepare better for the attacks. If we go blind without gathering information, we'll probably end up having no results, or it won't be successful in the end. So there are plenty of tools available for reconnaissance. We cannot cover them all. However, I have picked some of the well-known tools that are used in reconnaissance, starting with Whois, Dig, whatweb, nslookup, wafwoof, theHarvester, sublister, recon-ng, and Maltego. I'm going to split this video into two parts. So in the first part, I'm going to cover some of these tools, probably till theHarvester. And in the second video, I'm going to demonstrate some of the other tools. So let's get started. We're going to start with the first tool, which is Whois. Now, before I begin, Whois is a query and response based tool, which is used to gather information about the target domain. When it was registered, who is the registrant, when it was updated, the IP addresses, probably the location, and stuff like that. So let's start with Whois. There are two ways that you can use the Whois. Whois command line is also available. There are various websites that provide you with the Whois lookup information. So let's first use the command line. So Whois actually is by default available in Kali Linux, so you don't need to really install it. The usage is very simple. Whois and then the domain name linux-infosec.com. Like I said, we are not attacking the target. We're just trying to gather information which is publicly available. So for this particular domain, linux-infosec.com, this is our own domain, and you can see here the information about this domain. So starting here, this is the registrant organization, the name of the registrant, Faisal Amjad. The address is also given. The phone number is also given. So this is pretty sensitive information, or I would say useful information, trying to find out about the target. You can also see his email address here. And then if we scroll down, you can probably see the DNS, the domain name servers of linux-infosec.com. And you also get an idea that this domain is actually hosted somewhere in the United States. You can see the contact here as well, starting with +1. Another way to use Whois is that if you want to use it on there are plenty of websites, like I said. So Whois domain tools. Let's see. It's going to be pretty much the same information that I just showed you, maybe with some additional and in a much more presentable way that you will see. Okay. Whois domain tools. Sorry. Let's see. All right. So linux-infosec.com. And here you can see pretty much the same information: registrant, the organization, the country is PK, Pakistan, um, and then also the registrar information. So as you can see, PDR Limited, IANA, ID is 303. The dates, it's 570 days old. So this gives you an idea about the domain itself, when it was created, 2021, expires in 2023, last updated on 27/6/2022. And then you see the same information, like I said, the address, the location. You can also see it's posted somewhere in Dallas, Texas, and so on, right? Okay, so the second tool that I'm going to demonstrate is Dig. Now, Dig is also, again, a very handy, simple tool. It doesn't give you much information apart from the IP address. So you can see here the IP address of this particular domain. A actually here stands for the address, I guess. So the address is this is the public IP addresses. So obviously the domain that you're trying to target or attack, you need to know the IP address as well, right? Another tool that can be used for reconnaissance is called whatweb. Now, whatweb is a tool that tells you about the technologies that are being used by the domain. The CMS blogging platforms, JavaScript libraries, WordPress, if it is being used on the domain, the version of various technologies, which again give you an idea whether it could be vulnerable, and then you can try to find out what kind of vulnerabilities can be exploited. There are over 900 plugins in whatweb, so it's a pretty neat tool. So whatweb, and then also you can just use --help to see the various options that are there. So one of the things that you must know that by default it works in the stealthy mode. However, if you want to be more aggressive, you can use option 3 or even option 4, which I don't usually recommend in most of the attacks. You have to try to be more stealthy than aggressive, because the aggressive approach obviously raises much more alerts on the IDS and the firewalls. And then the way to use it is very simple, just like Whois. You can just write whatweb and then the domain that you're trying to find out the information about. -V is for the verbose, -A3 is if you are trying to use the aggressive approach to find out the exact version of the WordPress. All right, so let's try to do whatweb, and let me use another domain. Now here what you see is it says that the request is being redirected. 301 HTTP message means redirection, hosted somewhere in Germany. It also gives you the Apache version 2.4.29. Again, a very handy information if you want to look for some certain vulnerabilities of this particular version of Apache. You can find it. It also tells you that it's running on Ubuntu. This is the IP address of the domain. What else? This is the HTTPS 200 OK. Bootstrap protocol version is also listed here, 3.3.7. The email address is also given, and JQD version is also given. So pretty useful information in terms of reconnaissance. It depends on how you want to use that information in the next phases of penetration testing. Let's try it on another domain as well. Let's just see if we can run it on Linux-infosec. It's not necessary that you will, find all the information and the same information for every, domain by using this tool. However, you can see again here, located in the United States, the IP address, light speed is being used here, Bootstrap. However, the version you cannot see here, Lightbox, light speeds, and then the title of the organization, right? Okay. The next tool that I'm going to use is nslookup. Now, the nslookup is, again, like the name itself suggests, name server lookup. It tells you about the name servers of an organization or a domain. Tells you about the mail servers as well. There are, lots of options in nslookup that you can, look on the internet. What are the different options? At a very basic level, the usage is very simple. You just write nslookup, press enter, and then write the domain. So, for instance, cisco.com. So, at its basic level, it just provides you with the IP address of the domain. So this is the IPv4 and IPv6 for cisco.com. And then you can just type another domain like linux-infosec.com. So like I said, it only gives you the IP address at its basic level. However, if I set the type, I think there should be a gap, I guess. Yeah, I think so. Set type is equal to ns. And then I write the domain cisco.com, for example. So it tells you the name servers and their IP addresses of a particular domain. So you can see if you're looking for the name servers of cisco.com, you can find out it has ns1.cisco.com, ns2.cisco.com, ns3.cisco.com, and then you can also see their IP addresses here. So this is IPv4, IPv4, and IPv6 of these name servers. All right. Similarly for yahoo.com, for example, we can try, and you can see it has 5 name servers. Their IP addresses are also given. What else we can do with the nslookup? There are, like I said, there are plenty of things you can do with the NS. You want to find out the authoritative name server. You can find out by using nslookup. Let me just clear the screen. So nslookup. Another thing that I would like to show you is that you can set the type to MX, which means that I want to find out the mail servers of a certain domain. So let's just use another domain. All right. You can see here, this is the mail server for nus.edu.pk. If I write it for cisco.com, you can find out there are 3 mail exchange servers for Cisco. And there are other options as well in nslookup. So for instance, if I set the type equal to SOA, I think it is sense SOA, set of authority, I guess. And then I write the domain name, which is linux-infosec.com, for example. So what you see here, by using the SOA option in nslookup, you basically get information about the serial number, the refresh rate, 3600, retry, expiry, minimum, and the origin you can see here as dns1.hosterpk.com, right? All right. So this was about the nslookup. Let's go ahead and use the next tool, which was probably wafwoof. Now, wafwoof is basically a tool that can be used to perform reconnaissance on a domain to find out if it is behind some web application firewall. So it's more like a footprinting tool for web application firewall. So if this domain is behind the firewall, so we should be able to find out by using wafwoof. Let's see whether or not this domain is behind the firewall. And as you can see that nas.edu.pk is behind a NetScaler application firewall. And then similarly, and again, it's a very handy information that as an attacker, you know that, okay, if you're trying to target a domain, you know that there's a web application firewall that you may have to be careful of while trying to penetrate or trying to exploit the domain that you're working on. Let me try with another domain. All right, so in this second domain, you can see there is no web application firewall detected by generic detection method. All right. All right, so this was wafwoof. The next tool that I'm going to discuss is theHarvester. Now, theHarvester, sorry, theHarvester-H. So theHarvester, it actually pulls up the email addresses, pulls up the subdomains of a target. In order to see how it works, you can use theHarvester-H with the help option. So you can see that -d is for the domain. So the target domain, you have to, if you are targeting a certain domain, you have to use -d. -l is to limit the search option. So by default, it actually goes up to 500, results, but you can limit it to 150, whatever you want. V, I think, is for the virtual hosts. -s is for the Shodan if you are trying to use Shodan in order to, perform reconnaissance using theHarvester. And one of the most important and significant options is -b, which is for the source. So what source are you going to use to find this information? There are plenty of sources mentioned here, as you can see: Anubis, Baidu, then you have Bing search engine, you have OTX, you have Sublister as well as part of it, URL Scan, VirusTotal, Yahoo. Well, it's surprising because they have excluded LinkedIn, which was there before, as far as I remember, a few months back. They have excluded Google as well. So that's surprising that they haven't excluded these sources. Let's use theHarvester. So how do you use theHarvester? You have to use -d for the domain, not the Google. I'm going to use -d for, let's see, Linux-infosec. This is a small organization, so we won't, don't be surprised if we don't get much information or any information at all. So not a surprise. It's a small company, so we have one subdomain, cert.linux-infosec.com, and this is the main domain. And the email address that we found is only one email address, that is info@linuxinfosec.com. Let's try with some other domain. Let's try on cisco.com. What do you think? Or let me do it on nas.edu.pk. Like I said, we are not attacking any domain here. We're just trying to do reconnaissance and trying to find out the publicly available information. So we use -d nus.edu.pk. And no surprise, we've got much more subdomains for this particular organization. As you can see, hr.nus.edu.pk, then you have library. It's an academic institution. I have worked there, so mcs.edu.pk, and then you have seeks.nus.edu.pk, and so on and so forth. You can also see some of the email addresses that have been pulled up by this theHarvester tool, right? And again, the idea is that we are not exploiting anything. We're not finding vulnerabilities. We're just trying to gather passive information by using various tools. So I'm going to end up this video. The rest of the tools, I'm going to cover them in my second video. So keep watching and please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.